So today we're taking a really fascinating, kind of free-flowing journey that connects a few dots you probably wouldn't expect. We are actually going to start with the epic, sweeping landscapes of a classic spaghetti western, transition right through the daily grind of modern corporate life, and eventually find our way to the grassroots of environmental action with the Mumbai mangroves. I know, it sounds like a totally wild ride, but it is all bound together by one absolutely crucial core concept, and that is vision in leadership. It's really all about what we choose to look at, how broadly we're willing to see, and honestly, what happens when we finally decide to look past our immediate surroundings. Let's dive right in.
Okay, picture this. You're sitting in a theater, and you're watching the legendary, climactic scene in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. If you know the scene, you know it's just a total masterclass in cinematic tension. It is entirely dialogue-free, relying solely on the intense visuals and that iconic score. But here's where the source material gets wonderfully meta for a second. Imagine watching that scene and then watching the audience watch the scene. And you watch the scene, and you watch the audience watch the scene, until someone from the audience watches you watching them and you both just smile. It's this delightfully recursive, almost absurd experience, right? But what's really interesting here is that shared, totally unspoken understanding. It only happens because every single person in that room is completely enveloped in one grand, unified cinematic vision.
But we really have to stop and think about how we are actually consuming that kind of grand vision today. Think about the intended experience for a second. The massive, completely immersive silver screen. That canvas was meticulously designed by the director to totally overwhelm your senses, to show you the vastness of the desert and the tiny micro-expressions of the actors all at the exact same time. Now contrast that with our small screen reality. Today, we're likely trying to experience that exact same sweeping, epic standoff while squinting at a 6-inch mobile phone, probably while wedged on a crowded train. We've taken this massive visionary piece of art and literally shrunk it down to fit in the palm of our hands. We are basically trading grand immersion for sheer convenience.
Which brings us to a really important philosophical challenge from our source. The explainer poses this question. As more and more of us get used to these tiny, restricted screens dictating our daily content and our daily lives, are we perhaps losing our grand vision? And this goes way beyond just how we watch movies. It's fundamentally about how we view the world. If our physical window to the world is constantly shrinking down to the size of a smartphone, is our mental worldview, our capacity to actually see the big picture, shrinking right along with it? Are we just forgetting how to look at the horizon?
Well, to answer that, the source brings in a really profound perspective on leadership and success. It's from Subroto Bagchi's excellent book, Go Kiss the World. He writes, "Success to me is about vision. It is the ability to rise above the immediacy of pain. It is about imagination." Let's actually just pause on those words for a second. Rising above the immediacy. You see, when we're glued to the small screen, or when we're completely bogged down by the small, immediate problems of our daily lives, we lose that vital imagination. True success and true visionary leadership absolutely requires us to look past what is right in front of our noses and imagine what could actually be.
And Bagchi doesn't stop there. He expands on what this visionary leadership actually looks like in practice. He notes that it's about sensitivity to small people. It's about building inclusion. It's about connectedness to a larger world existence. And of course, personal tenacity. And then, here's the real anchor of this whole thought. It is about giving back more to life than you take out of it. It is about creating extraordinary success with ordinary lives. So the crucial takeaway here is that having a vision isn't just about corporate forecasting or, seeing 10 years into the future. It's about seeing broadly. It's about how deeply you're willing to connect with the larger world around you, rather than just staying inside your immediate, personal bubble.
But how does this actually map to our modern reality, especially in the professional world? Well, we frequently fall into what we can safely call the corporate short-sightedness trap, and that is, fundamentally, a failure of everyday leadership. In today's corporate and personal lives, so many people are just utterly engrossed in day-to-day affairs. We've all been there, trapped in that exhausting loop of emails, the endless meetings, just chasing the next quarterly target. And these mundane affairs act as literal blinders. We become completely unable to imagine anything beyond the immediate deliverables. And perhaps the most tragic part, even if we can imagine a better way or a bigger vision, we often actively choose not to voice our ideas or act on them. Because, let's face it, it feels safer to just stay within the familiar borders of our small, manageable screens.
But thankfully, that is absolutely not where the story ends. Because out there, off the screen, and in the very real, very messy world, you find everyday leaders who completely shatter this short-sightedness. I want to warmly introduce you to a specific group of people highlighted in our source material. These are real-world visionaries, our heroes of the weekend.
On a regular weekend, instead of just kicking back or endlessly scrolling on their phones, this dedicated group spent their time at the Kanda Valley Metro Station in Mumbai. And their mission? Educating the passing public on exactly why we urgently need to save the Mumbai mangroves. They weren't sitting in some sterile boardroom. They were right there, on the ground, rolling up their sleeves and doing the work.
Now notice how perfectly these grassroots volunteers embody the exact definition of success and leadership we were just unpacking. This, right here, is what true vision in action looks like. They aren't just going blindly about their daily affairs, they're taking their own valuable time to educate the public. They are exhibiting incredible imagination by seeing a future where these vital ecosystems actually thrive, even in the middle of a bustling metropolis. They possess both the ability and, honestly, more importantly, the willingness to give back more to life than they take out of it. They consciously stepped out of the immediacy of their own routines to connect with and protect a much larger world existence. Which brings us to this incredibly powerful core realization from the source. Imagination is everything. If we can imagine a future, we can create it. If we can create that future, others will live in it. Really think about the gravity of that for a moment. The hard work these volunteers are doing for the mangroves at a metro station isn't just about saving some trees today. It's about actively, intentionally designing a livable, breathable future for people who aren't even here yet. They're basically using their imagination as a blueprint to create the entire world that others will eventually inhabit.
So the natural question for all of us is, how do we actually break out of our own small screens and join them? Well, the source material lays out a really clear, simple, and fantastic path for us to support environmental causes like the mangroves. First, step 1, imagine the future. You have to give yourself the mental space and the permission to look way beyond today's immediate to-do list. Second, participate. Just like those folks at Kandavali, come forward. You can do this in person by volunteering your time, or, you can participate virtually if you can't be there physically. And step 3, simply like, share, and spread awareness. Amplify the cause. You can actually use your digital screens, not as blinders that isolate you, but as powerful tools to rally support and affect some real change. And this leads us to our final and frankly most provocative thought to leave you with today. We started this whole explainer by talking about that knowing, shared smile you get when watching a classic cinematic masterpiece with an audience. Well, let's apply that exact same concept to your real-world legacy. One day in the future, when the younger generations look back at you, at the grand vision you held, and the tangible actions you took to protect their world, will they smile? It's a profound challenge drawn straight from our source. It asks us to ensure that our lives are a masterpiece actually worth watching. Keep imagining, keep acting, and for sure, keep expanding your vision beyond the small screen. Thanks so much for joining me today.